back at Polaris Forge 2 in Harwood, North Dakota. Building 1 is moving into the final stretch toward its first ready-for-service milestone. But before this building can come online, one question continues to dominate the conversation.
Backlash against AI data centers is growing.
Billions of liters of water.
The growing backlash nationwide against data centers, the massive facilities needed to power AI.
I think the biggest concern that communities have is the water consumption.
For the communities where these facilities are built, the concern is understandable. Water is shared, local, and finite. But the loudest version of the debate often leaves out an important distinction. Older data centers use large amounts of water for cooling. Ours does not.
With this newer generation of data center it's a closed loop.
Data centers could use at least 469 billion gallons each year.
We don't do that. We're building something that aims to bring that needle as close to zero as possible.
At Applied Digital, water use for cooling is extremely low. The heat still has to leave, but how you remove that heat changes everything.
My name is Dan Brechtel. I'm a mechanical engineering subject matter expert with Applied Digital. After getting out of the military, I went to trade school for energy technology, which is essentially like glorified engineering tech with emphasis on energy production. Got a job working in plant engineering for a production facility, and then made the shift into healthcare for facility management. Finished my bachelor's here in Fargo at Minnesota State University Moorhead. When I first came on to work with Applied Digital, I had a lot of questions from my family. We've heard all these things, and it's like, okay, well, not a lot of that's actually true, and here's mathematically why.
The concern is understandable. Some data centers do consume significant amounts of water, but cooling systems are not all designed the same way.
An evaporative cooling system, say, that uses 2 million gallons of water a year, just evaporates into the ether. With evaporative cooling, you put so much water vapor into the air, and it's all a matter of efficiency. So when you hear about buildings, specifically older data centers, consuming water, that's where a bulk of that consumption comes from, is that evaporative cooling process. Our facility at ELN02 at Polaris Forge 1 uses 12 gallons, and most of that is just due to testing. We have closed loop cooling systems, aims to, again, bring that needle as close to zero as possible. The industry standard up until this point has been evaporative or adiabatic cooling. In that loop is we're taking the chilled water, we're then running it into a tower, putting it across a media, and then blowing air through it to bring the temperature of that water down and reject the heat out. An unhappy circumstance of that is evaporation.
Every calculation requires power, and nearly all of that power eventually becomes heat. Inside an AI factory, thousands of far more powerful processors are working at once.
You have a CPU, you have a GPU, you have these pieces of electronics that get hot as they work. So we're bringing liquid, chilled liquid, directly into contact with it, where it pulls the heat away into the liquid, and then we're removing it. We have closed loop cooling systems, which it kind of helps to think of it like the air conditioner on your house. We just have a lot of them, and they're very big. So instead of taking an open loop and then dumping water across media and then blowing air across it to bring the temperature down, it stays in coils, just like the fins on the radiator on your car. We're doing the same, where we're blowing air across it to bring the temperature down, and then cycling that cooled water back into the building where it goes through the refrigeration cycle in the chiller and gets brought down even further to our target range. Moving forward, as we're looking at WUE and trying to limit as much of an impact as we can on, the domestic water system in whatever community we get set up in, we're installing water meters that then communicate out how much is being pulled into the building through the main line through domestic water feed. Then we'll have meters on all of our process equipment. We're essentially taking total water fed into the building, less humidifiers, less makeup water to the loops. What you're left with is what's used in the restrooms, what's used in sinks, what's used in water fountains. So that number that we got from our process, that's what we actually use to do what we're doing in a data center.
We're here at Polaris Forge 2 Building 1, and I'm with Casey Ressler. He's the resident mechanical engineering SME, and we're going to bring you into the building and take you up to the roof and show you where everything gets started. We've got all the curbing set up. We're prepared to pivot in any direction that we need to go, and it's as simple as getting a crane and setting the unit on the roof, hooking it onto our system. As long as that piece of equipment does what we need it to do, we can plug and play all we want up here. We're using these cranes to move 70,000 pounds from a trailer and set them up here. If you can get within 3 inches plus or minus of where you want to be, so that's pretty good numbers.
Good, yeah. They're trying to put the CDU in, and we have a company that 3D scans where all that stuff needs to be. And I don't know if that was missed, but that pipe was off, 6 inches, and you can't just take a large pipe and bend it to where you need to be. Anything you think is going to be brand new, you're not going to have a lot of issues, but sometimes that's when you have the most issues. Like anytime you get something new, there's always going to be bumps and bruises that you can't predict. That could be catastrophic to the system that you need to react very quickly to. That's on my mind is what are we not accounting for that we can't predict?
So in that fancy, wonderfully drawn diagram that I made for you earlier, this is where the heat's rejected. So after the compressor side of things, it's kicked out through these coil walls, and then the air pulled up through the top, through the coil, and it's taking all that heat out of that liquid and rejecting out of the top. Once we get above 58 degrees, then the mechanical cooling kicks in, and we're using both walls. So in wintertime, it's below 58 degrees all day and all night. And then you get into those transitional periods ahead and after winter in the spring and fall, where it might get up above 58 during the day, but then by about 5 or 6 o'clock at night, we're getting back down below that temperature threshold. Then we're going back into free cooling overnight. So we've got I'd say 2/3 of the year where we're able to take advantage of that free cooling function. These are going to be plumbed directly up to the HRMs.
Yep.
So they're acting like a thermal battery. Chiller plant up on the roof brings the temperature of the water down to within that bandwidth that we have to hit for a target. This is where it's storing it.
And is this the data hall?
Yep, this is going to be the data hall, and then you're going to have walls that go up on the ends of each side of the data hall, and then that's what the craws are going to fill the space of. These two lines are going right up to the roof, so you'll have a supply and return. And then this TES tank here, this buffer tank, it belongs to that HRM. Every single one of these units, every single one of these HRMs is going to have its own buffer tank, but it's feeding a common loop. From there, it's fed to an RCDU, which is a remote cooling distribution unit, where there's a heat exchanger inside that transfers the heat away from the tech loop, which is in the stainless, and then puts it into the return that goes back up to the roof.
Yeah, there's a plated baffle in this, right? So like when the hot water comes in, or hot water tip, it forces it.
It's forcing it to turn over.
Yep.
And, yep.
And then it rises on the other side, so it gets a perfect mixture.
At no point in any of this system are we open to the air like the old outmoded systems. We're not burning up the water, we're not wasting the water, we're not consuming the water in the same way that previous data centers or even industrial manufacturing facilities do. There's a lot of misinformation going on out there, and I think that opportunities like this where we can kind of explain the steps that we're making to clear the air and get rid of that misinformation.